On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
I get set.
Now ready.
I'm ready.
Go. Everybody razzle dazzle. Everybody razzle dazzle. Everybody razzle dazzle. It's all night long.
Hi, I'm Art Fein. It's pretty unbelievable, isn't it? It's Larry and Lorrie Collins, the Collins kids, 1957, playing on Tex Ritter's Town Hall Party here in Los Angeles. Larry and Lorrie were the greatest. They were a teenage duo that ran from like 54 to 59, playing the greatest rockabilly there was. And a lot of us who loved their records were very happy when these videos started turning up in the late 80s so we could see what they actually looked like live. And then the impossible happened. In 1993, they started playing again. Before we show you some of that, let's take a look at Lorrie back in 1957 doing Mercy.
Baby is the one for me. Ooh, mercy. What my baby does to me, yeah, me. Ooh, mercy. What my baby does to me. When my baby embraces me, if you don't know what he does to me, when he whispers that he loves me so, he makes my pulse go, go, go. Ooh, mercy. What my baby does to me, yeah, me. Ooh, mercy. What my baby does to me. Mercy, how my baby pleases me. He's just as sweet as he can be. But mercy, when he teases me, he sure don't know what he does to me. Ooh, mercy. What my baby does to me, yeah, me. Ooh, mercy. What my baby does to me. Mercy.
Wow. Wow. That's Lorrie Collins, 1957, doing Mercy. Around that time, she was more or less engaged to Ricky Nelson, but then she ran off with somebody else at the age of 16 and got married, breaking up the group, which was a great loss to everyone because they were the greatest rockabilly duet going. That was 1957, Lorrie doing Mercy. Now let's take a look at Lorrie Collins in 1993. Unbelievable still, doing the same song in San Francisco at Bimbo's.
Baby is
camera's a little wobbly, but it's not bad. I shot that from the fourth row up at Bimbo's in San Francisco. It was the Collins kids' first rockabilly appearance in L.A. since 1959. It was pretty great. And then I saw them in late '93 at the Palomino, and I got to interview them out on the back patio. All right, here we are at the backstage at the Palomino before the Collins kids' first rockabilly appearance ever here, I suppose, right? I mean,
the very first one, doing all of our own music, and for many, many years.
Yeah, we did. We have worked here before, probably 15, 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how far back Lorrie would like for me to go, but
that's about far enough.
Quite a ways back, and but this is the first time to do all rockabilly, which Lorrie and I really enjoy doing our music from the 50s, and it'll be all the way from Beetle Bug Bop to Mercy to Early American to Hurricane and all the things we love.
So in the 50s, I didn't know about you locally because I wasn't here, but then you did pop up on a lot of lots of national TV shows, right? I mean, were you on Sullivan?
Yeah, Steve Allen, Arthur Godfrey, and our first network television show, I believe, was the first live television broadcast from the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. They flew us from here to go back and do that show, mm-hmm. and which was quite an honor for Lorrie and I.
Now, from some of the histories I've been reading about how the West Coast was a little more rock and roll oriented than Nashville, in the country field at least. Does that ring a bell with you? Does that make sense? I mean, were you slightly more raucous than what was being done on the Grand Ole Opry at that time when you made your debut there?
I think
absolutely,
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. There was a definite trend out here that didn't take place there at all. And it's interesting that now the music from California during that period of time is really coming in to full circle. It's wonderful.
Especially in Europe, as you know.
Oh, yes. So how was the first English day? What was that like for you?
Our first Hinsby festival, we did that, last year? Mm-hmm. And it was wonderful to hear 5,000 kids singing Beetle Bug Bop. And they live, eat, breathe, and sleep rockabilly music. And they even have refrigerators from the 50s, you know. These people believe it, and so do we. It's wonderful. And they're all young kids, too, you know. It's that younger generation. And the concert promoters, I said, well, you get that many kids, you know, what kind of problems you having? He said, well, they don't have any drug problems because drugs wasn't around in the 50s. And the only thing they will do is have a few beers. Maybe more than a few, but it's all good, clean fun, you know.
Now, I had you on my Rockabilly show 10 years ago that I did at Club Lingerie for the introduction of the L.A. Rockabilly album I did. And you were aware that at least me and 40 other people were interested in the Collins kids stuff. But it still took you 10 years from that to get on stage. Now, enough money, and what else prompted you to get on and do it?
Well, I think the reissues of all of our records at Sony and Bear Family and CBS they're putting out, and the popularity of the music. It really feels good to know that the things we did in the 50s have come full circle, and that music is really hot again. I think it's the popularity and the sales of the records, which is
you know, and also of course our first show we did was in England, and the promoters were so adamant and just kept persevering until we finally said yes.
They were after us for 3 years to come before we actually consented to go. Yeah.
So they finally made us realize that our music was big over there, and it's such a wonderful feeling to be appreciated, you know, finally. So we couldn't stay away, and once we went, it was just like a dream come true. We couldn't believe it.
We're going back this year, as a matter of fact, in October of this.
Well, next year.
Next year, yeah,
uh-huh.
Right.
But what about the first time you stepped on the stage? I mean, they're telling you you're popular, but you don't know whether to believe them or not. I mean, was it pretty good?
It was scary before we went on.
It was a little scary, but it just came unglued. It was like, wow, this is 1955, and this is great. She looked at me, and I looked at her, and we went for it. You know?
Oh, it was
and
so
did
exciting.
the crowd. And what's really neat is they know the lyrics to everything, and they sing along with you, and they know exactly how the instrumental should be. They don't want any ad libs, or they want it to be the same, you know. And that's what we do. We don't vary from what the originality was at that time. And so one thing Lorrie and I feel anyway, that was music that came out of our hearts and our soul, and so it's a natural thing now. You know?
What do you think happened back then? Because now we look at those kinescopes that have been floating around recently of you guys on Town Hall Party and stuff, and it's so phenomenal, yet it didn't really make it then. Now, looking back, I'm sure you're looking back on it and wondered yourself, do you have any idea now? I had a theory that maybe kids didn't want to see kids. I don't know, because there were no popular kids.
There wasn't really any at that time.
No. You got me on that. Go.
Well, I don't know, really. I don't know what's made it all happen for us now, but I think that's probably a very good possibility. We were young, extremely young, and we seemed to appeal at that particular time, I think, more to adults than we did to our own age group, don't you think, or teenagers?
Yeah.
And now, of course, it's just the opposite, although we do have a big following with adults also that watched us kind of, grow up, that sort of thing. But that's I don't really know. I don't think I can put my finger on it. All I am is happy that it's happening.
I mean, there were quite a few singles on CBS, and I guess your dad was managing you.
Yes, he did for a while. Yeah.
And there was a certain amount of promotion, a certain amount of going around to CBS conventions and stuff like that for you. I mean, there was a proper amount of push, or some kind of push, behind your records, or maybe not.
No, there were, everybody worked hard, and we had some mediocre hits here and there, and in Europe especially. And but Lorrie and I were always considered a television act, or an entertaining act, an act that you'd go see because of our energy level on stage, But as far as records, they're selling better now than they ever have, which is wonderful.
Now, you were one of the only gals around doing it. I mean, now, were you friends with, or did you spend much time with maybe the only other prominent gal singer from that time, which was Wanda Jackson?
Yes, in fact, she was on, Larry and I, of course, were on Town Hall Party, and she would come out quite often and do the show, and we became very good friends because I think we were kind of, admired each other, kind of both doing the same thing, and became really friendly with her, and also her husband now.
Lorrie and I were very fortunate, starting so young in the business in the 50s. We got to see and work with everybody from Johnny Cash to every star that would come to the West Coast from anywhere would always work on our local television show, Town Hall Party. And so consequently, we got to meet and know and become friends, very good friends with just about everybody in the business, at that time.
I never dreamed I'd be talking to the Collins kids about their current rockabilly tour. It's pretty great. Let's take a look at some footage from that current tour. They're doing Let's Have a Party, a Wanda Jackson song, or Elvis song, depending on how you look at it. It's their first encore that night. It's terrific. And Larry does a double neck guitar duet with Derek Dickerson from the Dave and Deke combo. A lot of D's there. With the Dave and Deke combo, who are backing him up. All right, let's have a party. Unbelievable. Let's go back to the interview now. Back on the patio at the Palomino. I know you were going with Ricky Nelson for a long time, and then married Johnny Cash's manager.
Uh-huh.
When did you get married?
What year did I get married? In 59.
So it was while you were still kids.
I was 16.
I don't want to talk about it.
At 16 years old.
So at that point, did the act split apart for a while?
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
it did. Yeah,
We certainly did. It put an end to a big momentum that was going.
It was a difficult time for us. I think every family has their ups and downs, and people do their things, and why they do them. But it all worked itself out.
Well, I'm just curious
Lorrie
because
has two beautiful daughters to show for her marriage, and I have a beautiful young daughter myself. Well, young.
Young.
She's young, yeah.
Well, because I've seen stuff from a Canadian show, Star Route, of you
Right.
guys. So when would that, you know what I'm talking about? The clips I'm talking about?
Yeah, that would have been, we went up to Toronto to film those, and we did, I believe, 26?
26, and Glenn Campbell was on the show. Rod Cameron was the host. and
Delaney Bramlett.
Delaney
was on.
Bramlett was the bass player. And probably, 60...
Well, I think it was early 70s,
Early
probably.
70s,
Uh-huh.
or
uh-huh.
late 60s, early 70s. And the premise of the show was that each week they would take a famous country act from like Buck Owens or whatever, and all the people on the show would do his music, and then he would, of course, would perform. And then they'd take the cameras and go to his hometown and show his lifestyle. And that was the premise of the show.
I guess I was curious because that was the act back together again after your marriage and after your cessation of the act for a while. When did you resume it?
Well, I think that was, of course, one of the first times that we got back together because they wanted us to go to Canada and do the show. And then, of course, after that, up until approximately 1984, Larry and I worked together, which a lot of people don't know, but basically in Vegas, Tahoe, Reno, that sort of thing.
You're both living in Reno right now.
We both moved to Reno, because we spent so much time in Nevada. So we decided to move there, which we love.
But now we're not working Nevada anymore. We're working in Europe and other places, so we don't know where we're going.
In the late 50s, Larry, you were hanging around all these rockabilly cats here in Los Angeles. I don't know much about that, but let me drop some names and you tell me. I mean, were you interacting? I mean, you were just like 13 or 14, but were you familiar with Eddie Cochran, for example?
Oh, sure. Eddie was a very, very close friend of mine. He'd come to town hall party. And at that time, he was working with he had a duet going with a guy called Hank Cochran. And, of course, Hank and I are still good friends. Hank's eventually became one of the most famous country songwriters alive.
I might mention here that, you co-wrote Delta Dawn and You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma. What about Hank? What was some of his hits?
Oh, you name it. Crazy, Together Again.
I Fall to Pieces.
I Fall to Pieces. Sally Was a Good Old Girl. You name it.
That's some pretty good songs, yeah. So you and Eddie met through the town hall party?
Yeah. They used to come out to the show. And, of course, that's where everybody gathered back then. Pardon me. And we, that was probably 55 was the first time I met Eddie. And, that early. Yeah, he'd come around out there, I think.
Well, they had, Eddie and Hank had an act together.
Had a duet.
Uh-huh. And so we worked an awful lot of shows with them, touring Northern California also. So we became really good friends.
And other guitar players on the show, like Joe Mathis, we usually played a duet, and he King of the Strings, one of the finest guitar players that ever lived. And also Merle Travelers. Between those guys and Eddie Cochran and...
Looking back, I wasn't cognizant of that scene. I was just a kid, too, at the time. And looking back, those guys with their flying fingers, they, too, stood out apart from the Nashville guys, didn't they? I mean, with that, what they were doing, or was there a lot of that going on in Nashville at the time, too?
No, the West Coast thing is unique as well as Nashville is unique, and its sound, its cleanness, and studio musicians, that sort of thing. Out here, I think we had a little more freedom and a little more rawness and more rough edges on the West Coast. That just has to do with California living, I guess.
So what about while she was going around with Ricky? Were you doing music with him too?
Oh yeah, they'd go out on a date if I wasn't with them. Usually I got in the back seat and said, "Where are we going?" But like
That's true.
James Burton at that time was working with Ricky, and James and I used to pick around a little bit. And but anyway, they'd go out on a date. They'd come home at midnight or whatever, and come in and wake me up. And Ricky and I'd sit there and play guitars and work on guitar riffs
And songwriting. We did.
and wrote some songs together. He was a really nice young man.
It's really been swell talking to you, and we're looking forward to the show tonight here at the Palomino and many more future Collins Kids shows.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Art.
And thank you, Rockabilly. Keep it
Yes.
cooking.
All right, we're going to cut away to a little before show interview with Lorrie Collins, Dave Stuckey from the Dave and Deke combo talking about Lorrie's guitar, and then we're going to go over to Derek Dickerson from the Dave and Deke combo talking about his double neck Mosrite.
Remember when we came out to rehearse with you all the first time before we did our first show together, I just remember walking in, and of course the double neck is such a great Larry's double neck. But man, when I walked in there and saw this thing, this is it that we have dug on Ranch Party so many times, and I thought, this is it. This is the one right here. First thing I did is had Lance take a picture of me with it.
Well, you know what I'm saying about, so why was it hybrid at the time?
Well, I think probably the reason it was done basically was, for Semi at that point. He did this, Semi Mosley, who is Mr. Mosrite. He did this wonderful guitar for Larry, and I think he felt, well, gee, I left her out.
There you go.
So he gave me a neck.
So wait, he was making double necks already, or he made that one for...
He made one for Joe Mathis, and then Larry had the second one.
So those are the two progenitors of the style.
Exactly.
He has no idea what she's talking about.
But he did do this for me, and actually it's a slicker, thinner neck, which is great for a girl, because we don't have the reach nor the, to fit around the thicker necks. And at that time, they were making thicker necks on most standard guitars.
So you would know this too, Dave. I mean, Mosrite was making guitars, but not double necks. Now, where did they stand? They were an L.A. organization?
Yeah, West Coast based. And I think it was good work for him to have you all playing these, I'm sure,
Exactly.
I mean...
We sold a lot of them for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And he started up around, the Bakersfield area. And I think that was probably, aside from Joe Mathis, of course, which is the other big pusher for Mosrite, and then later on the Ventures. See, that's when into the Ventures guitars are Mosrite guitars. So he got a lot of work and had some great artists playing his stuff is the thing,
And it was a great way for him to get started, to have, guitar players of the caliber that he gave them to. He was very sharp when
Smart businessman,
very smart, because he gave them, and of course they loved the guitars and played them constantly thereafter. I don't think any of them ever played anything
That's right, absolutely not.
any different.
And don't forget, old Deke's got one too, see?
I don't know from guitars. What's with your problem? I mean, you got a Mosrite. You're the luckiest guy in the world. You can play it. You're playing with Larry Collins. I mean, tell us a little about this Bakersfield bought guitar.
Well, the whole thing with my guitar as opposed to Larry's is that his is a handmade one and Lorrie's is a handmade one. Mine is just a production model, very plain, no fancy stuff. I mean, it is a double neck Mosrite. You don't see those every day, but...
Well, what do you know? You must know a lot about the history of these things. I mean, after Joe Mathis and Larry Collins started playing them, was there an explosion in them, or just a small explosion?
Well, no, Sammy Mosley was building guitars out of a shed in Norwalk and later in San Fernando in the late 50s, and he made probably around 100 custom guitars for people. In fact, let me whip out this other one real quick.
Okay.
But this is another handmade one from the 50s. And after he made, I don't know, probably 100 or so, he didn't have enough money to go into mass production. But then the Ventures, I'm sure you know the Ventures, played one of his solid body single neck guitars and financed him a couple $100,000. And that's what made Mosrite take off into like a real production model guitar.
Since you're a student of this stuff, why did the Ventures go with Mosrite?
They just wanted their own like signature guitar. The Ventures model Mosrites, I wish I had one to show you right now, but they sort of look like this one, except only with one neck. And then up at the top of the neck, it said the Ventures model. And this is one of the more esoteric production models. It's just a double neck because there were so many people that were still seeing Joe Mathis playing in the 60s around here, and they wanted a similar model. So this is a solid body guitar as opposed to Joe Mavis's was a hollow body guitar. Yeah, but...
What year is this one?
This one I think was made out of spare parts maybe after it went out of business, because it's all mishmash. I mean, everything's Mosrite, but you know, it's different years and different stuff, you know.
Like the Johnny Cash one piece at a time?
Exactly. But the bonus to it is I got it in a pawn shop in Bakersfield for $300, so you can't beat that. I mean, you can't even buy a new Japanese guitar at the mall for $300 anymore, you know.
All right, it's been a wonderful thing showing you the Collins kids. It's been a wonderful time for me to see them. I've got a lot more interview footage. I've got a lot more concert footage. I wish I could show you the whole thing. But we've only got a half hour, and it's time for me to sign off. So this is Art Fein signing off for Art Fein's Poker Party. And take a look at the Collins kids doing Rock Boppin' Baby. Unbelievable.
Tonight.